Hello, welcome to the Draft Talk podcast. We're back talking all things NFL draft, and it's finally here. Well, almost. It's draft week. Not calendar week, but it's a week away. Less than a week away. Cannot believe it. It's here again. It happened so fast. Life happened so fast. Anyway, we're going to today. We're going to take a bit of a look at some of the moves and shakers. Some of the players, try and fit them in or fit them out where they may fall. Yeah, we're just going to have a bit of a roundtable discussion on that. When I say we, I mean myself, your host, Brian, and of course, and Stu. How are you doing, guys?
Yeah, good. It's finally nearly so closely here, but still a lot to talk about, and I think there will still be a lot of talk in this last week. I think things are not as nailed down as they might be in previous years. I think it's a lot more difficult to predict, which is why we love it.
Yeah. This draft, more than any other, nobody bloody knows. And that's the fun of this draft more than any other. This could go any way, and it'd be interesting to see today where we try and figure out where things could fall, but we also could be completely wrong because this draft has been wild.
Indeed. It's not even started officially, but yeah, it's been crazy. There's rumours, there's all going on. Anyway, so let's I think we're all pretty certain Cam Ward goes first, but we'll see. I'd love it if he didn't. That would be exciting. And then Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter, one or two, maybe after them, or Shedeur Sanders, maybe jumps in there. What do we think, guys? We had our quarterback top 5. Last episode. You guys aren't huge fans, but someone out there will be. Where do you think he could he go top 3?
He could. I mean, Cam Ward's almost certainly going to the Titans, who's been on Fortnite streams saying that Calvin Ridley's his top-rated receiver in the NFL, and Tajay Spears is the top running back, not even hiding it. And to be fair, neither of the Titans either, right? Like within hours of them being at Cam Ward's pro day, the Giants signed Russell Wilson, which told you everything that needed to know there. Like the chances that Cam Ward falls from number 1 are non-existent. Now, I'm sure the Browns would love that to happen, but it won't. I'm sure the Giants would as well. If he's going to go top 3, it looks like it'll be the Giants at this point. But it is a wild card. It just depends on what grade they have on him. I think every time you do a quarterback rankings or you do a mock draft, we always say bums on seats matter, and it certainly appears that maybe ownership are getting involved at this stage. They've scheduled a private meeting with him, private workout this late on. It was just last week that they scheduled that, which is very late on in the cycle for those to take place. So it makes it seem like maybe ownership are getting involved. And look, who can blame him, really? I think a lot of owners being relevant matters so much, and you can't rely on being in the New York market always to be relevant. And nothing's going to make you more relevant in this draft cycle than drafting Shedeur Sanders. It means you're going to be on all the talking head shows. Even if he sits a year, it means you're going to be in primetime games here, there, and everywhere. And you look at what the Giants have been in recent seasons, and they've been almost an irrelevant franchise, haven't they? And you look at within that division, the Cowboys are always going to be prime time. The Eagles have just won a Super Bowl, they're prime time. The Commanders have Jaden Daniels, they're prime time. They're lagging seriously behind, and they've got to try and do something. So Shedeur Sanders does make a lot of sense to the Giants when you put it up like that. It means that they'll be playing in a lot of big window games, especially within that division. You can see Giants, Cowboys, Giants, Commanders, Eagles. You can see how those games then get picked for Monday nights and Thursday nights, and that's what gets you airtime. And plus Joe Shane, Brian Daboll fighting for their jobs. It isn't necessarily wins that are going to save their job. It potentially will be hope, and there'll be nothing more that gives Giants fans hope than seeing a couple of games of Shedeur Sanders playing well, and that could potentially save their job. So there's a lot riding on that number 3 pick for the Giants. I'm torn whether it's 50-50. I think whether they do or not. I really don't know which way they'll go. I keep coming back to they will for that reason. I've said it for years about the bums on seats, but how do you pass on Abdul Carter or Travis Hunter if they're sat there? It's a real difficult one to work out for them.
Yeah, I think that 2 and 3 don't really have a very appealing quarterback rooms, do they? I mean, the Browns have Kenny Pickett, Joe Flacco, and the ghost of Deshaun Watson, and the Giants have got Jameis, who's always good for a crazy bit of fun, but he's not a long-term option, and Russell Wilson. The Browns are interesting in that there's been a lot of, are they going to take someone and then double back and try and get Shedeur if he falls? I've seen that happen quite a lot as well. I think the stumbling block for those two teams is that Carter and Hunter are going to be sitting there. And there's not a lot of elite talent in this draft. Are you going to pass on them to go for a quarterback that's not elite that we think? Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it? I think if he doesn't go to the Giants, the next stop logically could be New Orleans.
Yeah, I don't see 9.
Mm-hmm.
They have got a horrendous quarterback situation as well, but do they just decide, actually, let's just have a laugh with Spencer Rattler this year and see what happens next year, quite possibly.
It's a great opportunity for them to do it, right? They've been in salary cap hell for what feels like a decade now, and there's no sign of it ever ending. So it's a great opportunity for them to finally get out of it. I'm not sure Sanders is their type of player, though. The type of quarterbacks that Kellen Moore's coached, and he just doesn't fit that mold. Whether it's Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert, Dak Prescott, they're all big arms, big bodies, good runners. Shedeur Sanders doesn't fit that mold really.
It's funny, like you say, where Sanders goes. If it is the Giants, it could literally be, they're picking him to save their own jobs.
Yeah.
Not because he's the best player or because they particularly want to pick him, but.
Owners told them that ultimately the owner sat in the room, they call the shots.
And I think, like you say, if you take him, and even if it's just an okay season, or he doesn't start, you maybe starting 4 or 5 games in, and if he shows a bit of promise towards the end of the season, that's probably all you need to get another contract, which is kind of crazy. But like you say, whether that's the right choice long term.
Right, and they're not looking long term. You're looking for this year, right? If it goes pear shaped, it's not their problem to solve. So realistically, we're sat there. We don't want to do it because you look at the future. You wouldn't want to pass on Travis Hunter, say, for the future, but they can't look 5 years down the line or look, if we fail, at least the organisation's in a good place for next year. They couldn't give a monkeys about that if they're not coaching that team. So the only way they would care is if the quarterback is there, and then that elevates them, and they've that's a win-win for them. But they won't care what kind of state that roster's in if they're not going to be coaching that team. So they're only thinking now.
Indeed. There we go. So to summarise, we've no idea what's happening.
Yeah, I mean, if he doesn't go to the Giants, and we're not thinking New Orleans, does he fall all the way down, right out the first round?
I don't think he'd go all the way out. It then just depends on who wants to come up, right? There's reports out today.
Yeah, by the time you get into the 20s, it's
there's reports out that the Steelers didn't have a great meeting with him, but there's just so many rumors flying about. You don't know what to believe, and who's leaking these rumors it's not Shedeur Sanders, it's not the agent. Who's trying to make him be there? Is that the Steelers leaking that information, hoping that a team doesn't try and jump in front of them? There's loads of possibilities, and you think if the Steelers feels like he shouldn't get past there, because you'd expect if a team does want him that they would go above the Steelers. So those picks may be between 12 and 19, say, that a potential trade targets if someone wants to get up. The Giants are poised at the top of the second round to jump up, as are the Browns with the first pick of the second round. So it's logical to see why you'd think that they would potentially want to move up. But if you're willing to take a quarterback with the 15th pick and give up some trade capital, you might as well just do it at 3. The question, the reason why this debate comes up so much is because the talent of Travis Hunter and Abdul Carter is far superior to anyone else in this draft. So it'd be difficult to, if it was a bit more of a level playing field between those, or there was a few more top tier grades, then it wouldn't be such a quandary. But because they're so good, it'd be difficult to pass on them for a potentially average NFL quarterback.
It'll be a bit tiresome, won't it, on draft night, because it'll just be, oh, pick 6, oh, Sanders still not go. But we love it. We'll keep with the quarterbacks for now. Then we'll do something else. Jaxson Dart, he could potentially jump Shedeur Sanders, or even I've heard, Jalen Milroe, Tyler Shaw, all getting, big shouts, maybe entering the first round. What are your thoughts there?
I would hope not. for if I was a general manager or a head coach, would I be spending first round draft capital on Jaxson Dart? No. Even in this draft of a dearth of quarterbacks, is it worth doing so? I don't think so. We saw the year that Kenny Pickett got drafted and there was a dearth of good quarterbacks. He got picked and nobody was picked until the third round after that. If you want to take a punt on somebody like a Jaxson Dart or a Jalen Milroe, fair enough. I don't think you take punts with your first round pick. Jalen Milroe is probably the only quarterback in this draft who has an elite trait of any description, but that's his running ability. It's not anything to do with his decision making or his passing or anything like that. So I could see why teams might on day 2 think, okay, let's just take a punt on that trait. First round pick, I think, is very rich for any of those guys.
There's just plenty of noise at the moment, isn't there? Right, and all the noise you're hearing is potentially teams wanting to move back up. It's whether you talk about whether it's Tyler Shaw, whether it's Jalen Milroe. We've heard about Dart in the first round for a while now, but when you're hearing the teams are interested in Milroe, it's always a team wanting to move back into the first round for them. That always worries me, because if they liked him that much, we'd be talking about them doing it with the first pick. And the problem is, when there's plenty of noise, there isn't necessarily a precise place it always comes from. And usually, if it's a quarterback prospect, that means that they're going to be overdrafted, and it's because an insider is reporting that X team is interested in him, when really that could just end up being board manipulation, and it's just teams trying to get people to move up or trying to panic teams. I'm not there with Dart. In truth, I wouldn't be spending a top 100 pick on Jaxson Dart, but that's me. I've been wrong plenty of times before, and I'll be wrong plenty of times again. But I think I look at Jalen Hurts, who went in round 2, and he had a much higher floor and a much higher ceiling coming out than Jaxson Dart does, and the NFL still passed on him, and he went in round 2. And I think, so you look at the pre-draft thoughts there, and I think that the grades on Hurts would be higher than they are on Dart, almost 9 times out of 10. And say he had to wait. So it might come back to bite me, but everyone in this industry is wrong every now and again. I hold my hands up if I am, and I don't want to bash the kid either, but I don't see the upside of him being a starter as a rookie. And I think there's serious question marks over arm strength, decision making, offense he played in, progressions. I just don't see an NFL starting quarterback as I sit here today. If I wanted to start a player in an NFL game today or tomorrow, then he'd probably be towards the bottom of that list in the class, because he needs so much time to develop and understand NFL concepts. That doesn't mean he can't get there, but he needs consistent coaching for a couple of years, and before I personally would feel comfortable with it. There's plenty of noise in round 1. I just don't get it. I think the Saints do make sense to me, because we mentioned just before that, with Kellen Moore, he's kind of that Dak Prescott, Jalen Hurts, Justin Herbert. You can see how he is in that group in terms of physical makeup, and there's a profile there. That's what I don't necessarily buy into the Sanders stuff with them, and say Dart makes far too much sense. But come on, not at 9, a day 2 pick. Sure, if you want to take a flyer on needing a quarterback, whatever, do what you need to do, but you don't need to do that in the top 10. Like what we're doing.
I think value of quarterbacks, sometimes it's just worth throwing a dart, isn't it? See what happens. Wasn't very good, was it? There we go. One play could go in the top 10. Could fall out the first round. We don't know. He's certainly talented enough, but the injury is offensive tackle Josh Simmons. Dr. Stu, tell us it's a patella tendon tear rather than an ACL. What's the difference?
Yeah, so
is that what we all been furiously googling? Yeah.
Is that been you?
What
Googling?
Is worse, ACL or?
I did Google it and it just said patella tendon tears worse, but I was like,
yeah. So the
I'll go to the doctor, shall I?
Patella tendon is basically the tendon.
You just Google it as well. You know that, right?
Yeah.
Basically, the tendon on the patella, is it?
It joins on the bottom of your kneecap onto your shin. You can feel it in yourself when you bend your knee, and that is whereas the ACL is one of the crossover tendons in the middle of your knee. So if you imagine your knee like this, you've got your two cruciates kind of as a cross in the middle. They hold the stability of the knee, where the patella tendon is more to do with the movement of your patella, your kneecap. Totally different injuries, totally different surgeries. The time frame for most you tend to see is about the same, roughly, in recovery. I think people with ACL tears tend to do a bit better because there's a lot more people who have ACL tears, and it's a lot more common of an injury. And it's different type of rehab, and you can rehab it earlier and those kind of things as well. But we don't know where he is with his rehab. We've no idea. I think.
Well, there's good. The reports are good.
Yeah, the goods are good. Yeah, there's nothing that's come out to say it's bad, which I think is encouraging.
No, but we're not. No one's going to say that, right?
No.
It could be really bad. An agent's still going to come out there and go, "Oh, he's ahead because he wants his player to get paid, and so he gets paid." It's all mind games, isn't it? There obviously is a history of patella tendon tears in the NFL. Is it fair to say that it's more difficult to get your explosiveness back with a patella than an ACL?
It is. It's more to do with the movement and the bend in the knee, I guess, than your ACL. It's more to do with stability.
Yeah. So the reason I asked that is because I'm trying to think. There's who's the receiver that had a patella anyway. And there's the corner as well that had we've spoken about patella tears before. I can't remember who it was that had a patella tear, but I'm thinking more the weight he's going to have to carry and the stability he needs on the offensive line, about how much that maybe matters.
Yeah, I mean, these expert surgeons are so good now. And the sports rehab and things are so good. He's going to get the best chance he can to get back to where he was playing one of the elite programs in the country. They're going to have good medical staff and good sports therapists, physiotherapists, and things. He's going to have the best shot he can. Yeah, he's not you and me going off to the local hospital in a sheet of some physiotherapy to do in your bedroom. He's not.
He's still waiting for an appointment. Yeah.
Yeah, most likely. So he's going to get the best shot that he can get.
Yeah, but it's not ideal, right? And that's sort of can you? Yeah, NFL teams have to work out whether they would rather draft that or the next guy on their board.
Yeah, because I mean, he had this into the season, so he's what was that, October, November time? So
October,
he's only 5-6 months down the line with it. It is a 6 to 12 month injury, so there's still a bit of time to go with him being up to speed, and with the OTAs and the mini camps and all that coming quickly up. How ready is he going to be for these? We just don't know.
Yeah, and teams have to also weigh up that yes, he was very good at the 6 games he played in 24. Didn't even concede a pressure, but he by far played the easiest part of Ohio State's schedule, and they would have loved to have had that full. Or he got injured in that against Oregon. They would have loved to have had that full game at least, if not more, to see what he could do. So inkling would be back end of the first round. A team like the Texans, the Chiefs, a team that need offensive line, but could maybe wait. That you could see how, say, the Texans, they've got stop gaps at both tackle positions, but Cam Robinson isn't going to be the future left tackle for the Texans. You can see how Josh Simmons maybe can sit and continue his recovery, not rush him before in there. But It's not an easy projection by any means, because a lot of it'll all come down to where teams feel his medical situations and how much of a chance they're willing to take on that, because there's no guarantee even that when you get him in the room, he's going to offer the same explosive movement that he had, because he was extremely athletic at Ohio State. We think he'll get some of that back, but whether he is 100% back to what he could be with that explosiveness is a question mark.
And I guess, well, it'll come out in the wash, won't it? It'll come out in the draft. If he's taken top 10, top half, then that's a pretty good sign that whoever takes him is very happy with the medicals. Yeah. And I guess we can maybe expect to see him soon. But if it's like you say, the later he goes,
it's almost like you're telling people, Brian, not to listen to us and just to wait, which isn't.
No way.
It doesn't matter. We just spoke for 5 minutes on it. Doesn't matter. Just wait. You'll find out. Yeah. Stop being so impatient.
Well, like you said, you said it. We don't know anything, so it's crazy. Anything could happen. So trying to fill in some gaps here. Next we'll go. Ashton Jeanty.
Talk about a player who can fill in some gaps.
Absolutely, he can fly through some gaps. Yes, please. We had one of our first episode blue chip players. That's him. Thereabouts. He's pretty much everyone's top running back. He's been not too far off in the likes of Saquon Barkley, that sort of level. Where do you reckon guaranteed top 10? I remember when we started this process, it was very much like, he's the best running back, he's a superstar, but he might not even go top 20. Is he going to get in the first round? Now it's everyone seems to be 6 at the Raiders or thereabouts. What do you think?
I think I'd be surprised if he got past the Bears at 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think his opportunities to go start. Could Jacksonville take him at 5? Maybe.
Patriots could take him at 4.
I don't think the Patriots will.
But they could. They have a running back need. They could.
They could.
I don't see it, but
no, I could see a scenario in which Jacksonville take him, but I think it's less likely.
Yeah.
Raiders could see a scenario where they take him. Jets, I don't think they'll do that. Who comes next? Panthers, don't think so. Saints, don't think so. Bears, yes. I would be surprised if he gets out that run.
Yeah, and he certainly wouldn't get past the Cowboys.
Yeah,
that's the basement, but ground floor, we would say the Bears at 10.
Yeah, so I think in amongst that 5 to 10 range, you probably will see Ashton Jeanty go. And then in this draft, I think what you really want to do, because there is no absolute superstars at the elite positions that you want, you want to come out of this draft with good starters. And whether that's the non-elite positions, whether you come out of this draft with a good tight end, a good running back, and a good linebacker, that's better than you could maybe do at some of the other positions. So Jeanty makes sense if that's something that you need.
Yeah, so Daniel Jeremiah sum up the draft as a starters draft, and I think that's perfect analysis, really, that this is a draft where the aim of any draft is you come out of it with 4 starters. And I think you'll be able to do that easily with this draft if you select the right players, because it is deep with starters. It just isn't deep with blue chip talent, and Jeanty is one of them. So if you can come out with Jeanty, and then the Raiders have a decent amount of day 2 picks, and so do the Bears. So if you're the Bears and you can come out with Jeanty, and then you've got
they've got 2 very early twos.
2, within the 40s. Is it 40 and 42 or something along those lines?
That's a good even in the 30s, maybe.
That you to be able to come out with Jeanty, and then a defensive tackle, maybe Tyreek Williams, and a receiver or whatever, or an offensive lineman, you'll be able to do that. So I really like that thought for the Bears. But equally, you could say they could go for a defensive tackle or offensive lineman in round 1 and get someone like Travion Henderson or Caleb Johnson or someone in the 40s. So it's that stacking of, if we don't go here, who could potentially be available to us. So it's the combination of picks that teams will be looking at more.
I think that could be the reason why. I agree. I don't see him getting out of the top 10, but that could be the reason why he does fall. Is it's a good running back class as well. Yeah. So, yes, he's the best. He's up here. The rest a bit further down, but like you say, I could get a wide receiver. I could get an lineman there. Yeah. Whereas I might not get one of them on day 2, day 3. That there's some pretty good running backs. I'm pretty confident that I'll pick one up there. So we'll see. Marion Hampton, another good running back. Everyone, especially you, and I've seen it about 3 of your mocks, has him to the Cowboys at 12. Again, he was more so, like we said when we started the process, more so. He'll be second round. Leave it. But he's crept up the boards. Owen, you're a big fan. Are you locked in there at 12 or?
No, I don't think it's locked in because I think
not locked in anything, but
because there's so many ways that the Cowboys could go, right. That it's not just a running back away. That offensive line still needs work. Exactly. Second wide receiver 2. You keep going back to Hampton mainly because I feel like I'm higher on Hampton than a lot of people, and I think and this is why I wanted to bring him up here. Because if the Cowboys don't take him, it's then difficult to find the next spot for him. So it's almost a nice chalk pick for me at the moment, just to be like, look, you can see I'm high on Hampton and he fills a need, but I do worry that the Cowboys will just do what they always do and they'll find a way to get an offensive lineman instead, because they seem to like going down that route. If the Cowboys don't take him at 12, Denver's probably the next logical spot. If he doesn't go there, you can't see another team between 13 and 20 taking him. Maybe the Steelers if Shedeur Sanders wasn't there and they didn't fancy Jaxson Dart. But if that doesn't happen, you can see a situation where he slides to day 2. And then if I was the Browns, I wouldn't be passing on him with pick 33 unless there's a quarterback that they really like on the board. What I really like about Hampton is that he's not the type of running back that I normally gravitate to. I normally gravitate to elusive, space-eating running backs, and Hampton isn't that. So when I did fall in love with his tape, I went, hang on a minute, he must be extra special in terms of my grade, because that isn't the type of running back. He isn't the most elusive of running backs, even though he tested much better than anyone expected. To get his combine numbers, that 4.46 40-yard dash, that was 84th percentile, 30-inch vert, 86th percentile, 10-foot 10 broad jump, that was 96th percentile. I don't think anyone saw that coming, because he isn't necessarily that explosive compared to players like RJ Harvey or Ashton Genty. I think teams will really like the fact that they have those numbers to fall back on as well. I think if you can get a team to pound the table for him, he's a first-round player for me. But with running backs, if the 2 or 3 landing spots close up, then he'll fall, because he's not the type of player and he doesn't play the type of position that teams will go, well, he's falling, we'll have to take him.
Yeah, obviously you mentioned the Cowboys and Denver. Another spot that kind of intrigued me thinking about it was Washington. I think that they're a team who just want to surround Jaden Daniels with talent, and whether that's tight ends, wide receivers, offensive line, running backs, you think you've got someone there in a quarterback. We sometimes see that people regress in second season and all, but they're thinking now we've got our guy. He's been really good. He's got us to the championship game. Let's add something else to this offense.
Yeah,
let's add a really prime running back. Let's start adding some day 2 linemen. Can we get another receiver in there as well, and really start building on that? So that's another team that I think that might be, if he drops, they might think, let's round out this offense a little bit more.
They're a team that I could see thinking about running back anyway. My last mock that I'll officially do, I had 3 going out. Travion Henderson going to the Commanders, because that's what you're laying out situations, right? That you can see a situation where it's just Genty that goes in the first round because the Cowboys don't go that way, the Commanders don't. But there's also a situation where Genty goes to the Bears, Hampton goes to the Cowboys, and then Henderson goes Denver or to Washington. There's a situation where 3 go then, So it's that close. And with running backs, if it isn't one of those three, it's difficult to think who else that might be. Maybe it's the Chargers, maybe it's the Steelers, but they don't have as glaring of a hole as the other three teams do.
We shall see. It seems like the return of the running back, didn't it? They all got paid the other year. Now it's good to see. Let's stay at the sort of skill position. Tesoro McMillan seems to be everyone's wide receiver number one. Again, he's sort of crept up the boards, hasn't he, in terms of where he's been drafted. In all the mocks, what do you think, guys? Where do you think he could go?
He's somebody who started off, you thought in summertime he was good. Then midway through, he was getting drafted at 4, 5. He's fallen back down again. I think it's really difficult to predict where he's going to go. I think he's a really difficult pro. We're looking at the top. For I've seen lots of people mock the Patriots at 4 because they need to load up for Drake May. Mm-hmm. I think that there's other needs that they maybe need to identify
it's rich,
there,
isn't it? Yeah.
But I've seen that you think of out with Garrett Wilson. Who do the Jets have? They don't have anybody to throw the ball to. Saints, there's not a lot in that wide receiver room, so that's 3 in the top 10 you're looking at. Then it could go anywhere. There's the Chargers will be looking at wide receiver further down the board. I think he will go. It's just who really wants him. It's a real difficult projection. I could see 6, 7, 8 teams him going, and I could see none of them taking him and him falling as well. I really do. He's one player I really find it difficult to slot in.
He could go anywhere from 5 to 25, and I could see him going anywhere in that range. Do I think the Jags would take him at 5? No, but I think there would be a discussion to be had there if they really liked him, because they do need more receivers. And then I wouldn't have thought that the Packers would pass on him. That's why I land on the 25 number. I think that would be his floor. I think they definitely need wide receiver help. They've got no wide receiver one at all, and he's got the measurables and things like that. So I could see him being on the Packers, the same as I could with Matthew Golden, to be fair. But I don't even think there's a given that he's wide receiver one. Matthew Golden's moved up, and it depends how you see Travis Hunter, right? That you're almost getting a 2 for the price of 1 with Travis Hunter. You're getting a receiver and a cornerback, so you almost have to take him out of it. But yeah, it could be 8, 9, 10, 12. There's such a wide variance, and each team will get to it on draft night. It could be McMillan, no, and then the next pick will come along. You're like, oh, this could be McMillan. No, it's not, and then it just keeps falling on the board. So it's really difficult to pinpoint where he could go. I mean, the best landing spots, say, I like him in the Packers offense. I could see how that would work. I could see how it would work in the Jags offense as well. But there's rumours they're really high on Egbuka, so they would potentially wait till the second round to fill their receiver need. 8 or 9 is where I keep landing back to, because for the Saints at 9, their only receiver on the roster for 2026 is Chris Olave, right? And the others will be free agents.
He has had
concussions.
Some concussion history as well. He's not someone you're going to be 100% all nailed on, definite second contract.
Yeah, they don't have tight ends either. Really, they don't have that predominant pass catching tight ends. And then you talk about 8 of Carolina. They just need to. They don't have that receiver either. Really, they took South Carolina guy.
I just think they're going to be defensive.
Yeah, well, yeah, I do too.
Xavier Legette,
Xavier Legette. They traded up to get him, didn't they? But they need more outside of him.
Yeah. Adam Thielen's not going to be around forever.
So it's easy to fall back there. But yeah, I agree. I could see both of those teams going defense, to be fair. The Saints are almost the real wild card. You could see them go in. We've brought them up a lot, but they really could. They could do anything, and the cards have been kept really close to the chest. There's been not a lot of. I think I've ever seen any leaks at all apart of who they could potentially be interested in, or the rumours that meeting with this, they've kept themselves very quiet. So I am intrigued to see what they'll do. But those two spots make a lot of sense for McMillan. If he gets past them, then say you'd think a team in the teens would pick him up.
When Ted McMillan gets picked, he's not one of those ones I'm going to go,
yeah,
ooh, because you can see so many teams take him. You go, oh yeah, okay, yeah, I understand that. Fair enough. Good move. Get on with it.
Didn't see that. Yeah, saw it.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Well, we'll switch to defense, shall we? Kenneth Grant. How high could he go? There's some off-field reports. It's a deep defensive tackle class, quite a good defensive tackle class. Definitely one of the top five to re-listen to before the draft. What do you think?
Yeah, it's the off-field. It's not necessarily horrendous off-field stuff. It's more of, you see a lot of college football reporters rather than draft analysts reporting that when they speak to sources and coaches in the Michigan building, that it was almost how talented he is. Why couldn't he have started earlier in his career, and why is it he couldn't see the field so often? Right, the room was really good. They had Mason Graham there, and they had Chris Jenkins, who got drafted in the second round last year. But Kenneth Grant, given his physical gifts and his size, should have been starting a lot more. And I think it was Todd McShay, used to work for ESPN. Some rumors that a source had told him that he just needed a fire lit underneath him. And that's what an NFL team will be hoping that they can do. So that's not a horrendous off-field report, but it is something to bear in mind that teams might just go, they want a bit more of a higher motor and a bit more oomph to his game. But in terms of how high, I mean, he had 50 pressures, 39 run stops in the last 2 seasons. Given his size, given his athleticism, he's a freaky athlete, and the good plays are amazing, and he's going to be a great nose tackle or beat gapper. I could see him going 11 to the San Francisco 49ers because he is that type of talent, but it is something to bear in mind that some teams appear to be thinking that he maybe just needs some, a bit of dynamite up him and get him rocketed.
I have a horrible sinking feeling that Kenneth Grant is going to end up in the Eagles. That he's going to drop. Eagles are going to do what they're going to do and see a player that, we shouldn't be getting this guy. And moving on from Jordan Davis. Is that big run stuffer? No. Is he going to get a second contract with him? You see them cycle out these defensive linemen. Milton Williams, they've moved on from. I just have a funny feeling he's going to end up there. I hope he doesn't, because they don't need to get any more good defensive linemen. But I could see something like that happening. But again, I would love him to play for my team, the Dolphins. I think you had him. You said that was one of your favourite picks. I think that would be a really good complement to their defensive front. Yeah. They also need to fix the offensive line, but that's something they just don't want to, or even attempt to address any draft for the last while. Cincinnati, I think I could see him landing there. I think he'd be a good fit there. Chargers, they've had troubles in run defense for many a year as well, and they haven't really fixed that perfectly. I could see that reuniting with Jim Harbaugh. He knows what he's going to get there, and he could be the person that
exactly he knows it firsthand. Yeah, he'll know it firsthand. So if he passes on Kenneth Grant, given it's a need, you think maybe there is something to those reports. Obviously, we can't sit here and verify it. We can only go on what's reported, right? But they're being reported by multiple college football analysts for a reason. But yeah, if then Jim Harbaugh doesn't go with Kenneth Grant, that makes you think that maybe teams are hearing stuff, or not just hearing stuff. No more stuff that's actually being reported. But yeah, somewhere in the teens makes a lot of sense for Kenneth Grant.
You wouldn't believe someone called Kenneth could be a bad person, do you? It's a pretty.
It's just like
a nice name.
It's a nice dad name, isn't it?
Yeah, it's good that. Yeah. Oh, Kenneth. Oh, yeah. Kenny. Yeah. Nice guy. Walter, another nice first name. Walter. He must be a good egg, right? Walter Nolan.
Yeah, there's another guy. There's some stuff on. Again, not damaging stuff, but again, it's college football analysts that are reporting that he was a several different high school programs, has then gone to Texas A&M, then transferred from Texas A&M to Ole Miss, and there's just question marks over how much he necessarily how much he wants it. I think is the best way to phrase it with being fair. And he hasn't settled in any program at college or high school level. There's isn't necessarily glowing reports from sources at Texas A&M that we're hearing from analysts who look, I can't imagine they would speak favourably about him after he transferred from the programme, but it's something to bear in mind, right? But look, he's extremely talented. You talk about athletic freak up front. His athleticism means that he could also, he could also go 11 to the 49ers, but also given there's reports that multiple teams have taken him off his board, he could be one of those that you were on about Kenneth Grant there. You could see how he goes to the Eagles or even maybe the Bills who need that type of player. There's multiple mock drafts out there that haven't going in the second round who have multiple round mock drafts. So the talent tells you he should be a top 20 player, but how serious these off-field reports are being taken will depend on how far he drops.
Yeah, I think a lot of the things I've read is about his kind of maturity. If things aren't going his way, he'll walk off the field in the middle of a practice and have a bit of a harumph and a stomp and a bit of a gurn about things. But it's nothing major. It's just that, is that just because he's a young guy and he gets frustrated and he wants to do his best, and who knows?
But in a draft that's so close up front, you can see how teams go, we'll just take Derek Harmon instead.
He's a total beast on my EA college sports game on the Xbox, and I managed to get him to stay for his senior year when I was playing recently. So I'm fixing his attitude on the Xbox. But he's a really talented player. I think I had him as number 2 if I remember rightly when we did the defensive tackles. I love his tape. If I could just clean up some of those things, or just make sure that they're not a major issue and that the right coaching staff get. I think somebody will get a good. The good player there, absolutely.
Good. Similar sort of story, slightly different position. James Pierce Jr. Sliding down. There's some issues there, maybe. And what are you hearing there? Where do you think he'll end up?
Yeah, it's a similar kind of thing with James Pierce that he's dropping down even consensus board, where I think he's 33 on the consensus board right now. He's slipping down. The reports there are that he just wasn't a great teammate, that Tennessee had him even practicing on his own sometimes because he just didn't want to practice with the rest of the team and the rest of the roster. And there's just reports coming out, this was back in the combine, that he's a good player, he's an explosive player, but does he want to be a great player? And that's not something that NFL teams necessarily want to be questioning, especially when you're doing interviews. If that's coming out at the combine, it means your interviews necessarily haven't been going that great, because teams want to be able to see that drive and how much you want to be playing for them, playing for the badge, and it means he's sliding. I still think the talent is there to be a top 20 pick. On talent alone, yes, but if those again, similar to the other guys, if those off-field reports are what we know they are, and if it's true that he has been choosing to practice on his own at Tennessee because he doesn't want to be on the practice field with the rest of the roster, that's just not a good look.
Yeah, you're starting to see less and less of James Pierce in the first round now, aren't we?
Yeah.
And I think the more and more you see that, there must be something to some concerns that people have that, okay, we still really like him, maybe not being a first round pick, the pressure isn't there as well.
Yeah.
We take him in the second round. We've got a really good player there who isn't expected to be the guy straight away. We can work with some of the attitude, the right word, look into that without him having to be the top guy, and get him into our program, get him into our mindset. It's difficult because a lot of teams think they can change a lot of people, and people don't always change as easily as you think they're going to. But I guess you don't know until you're sitting down with him, having those talks, getting to know the guy, because we're only going on what you hear. And some people, the reputation goes before them, or somebody takes a dislike to something and it's blown out of proportion. It's really difficult to know. But again, talent is there.
Yeah, there's just some teams that are really strict on this stuff. And as a Falcons fan, I can tell you that the Falcons are really strict on that stuff, that they'll take a guy who's less talented because he's a clean prospect and that he's the type of guy that they want in the building. So it'll differ between teams. But if you're a fan of a team that has strict off-field stuff, it's the same with Mike Green. There's some off-field stuff there as well, right? That it means that they're likely off the board for those teams who are strict on off-field stuff.
Indeed. Where's now? This could happen. Jalon Walker, an enigma of a player. Where do you see him going? He's one of them. Like pretty much everyone we've touched on. Could go top 10. Could go back after first. Where do you guys think?
He's going top 10. I'm sure of it.
Yes, we're sure of something. Fuck it. Go on.
I think he will. We didn't.
I know that.
You know that. you know my feelings on Jalon Walker, and there's always a player that I'm out on a limb from that I'm different to a lot of people, and he's my one this year. I think I just don't know. Everybody seems to just love Jalon Walker and think that he's going to be picked by the Panthers at 8 and be amazing as an edge rusher. I struggle to see that myself, but I can't see much past. There's too much chatter of that now to be a false narrative that he's going to go highly.
Yeah, I've evaluated him as an edge rusher, and that he's linebacker / edge rusher. Basically, is I think how people are gonna label him. It was 17.2% pass rush win rate, second best in the country this last season, but we know that was schemed open for him at times. The reason he's going top 10, we all know the traits. Go and listen to the scouting reports that we've done on him, but it's the mixture of tape, production, and plus leadership. That you're hearing really good stuff out of the program and from analysts of teams really like. So it may be that he's slightly lower on a board, but they go, let's get this guy in on our defense, leading, could be from the second level, could be from the edge, but being vocal, potentially changing a culture. You could see how a team like Carolina think this is the guy that we need to draft, who's going to
set the tone for what we're going to be.
Set the tone, yeah.
Good stuff. All right, someone who's slipping and sliding everywhere, aren't they? These guys are bloody snakes and ladders.
It's a good way of describing it, isn't it?
Shedeur Stewart. We touched on him obviously in the defensive end top 5. Loads of talent, just didn't produce. What was it? 1.5 sacks last year.
Sacks every year.
Yeah.
Well, exactly. Yeah. So between us, we could probably get 1.5 sacks by accident. You sort of fall into someone the right way. But watching a bit of tape, he was there or thereabouts a lot.
Yeah.
Which is something.
I think
he should have finished it.
Yeah, he's one who's had a combine hype that seems to have burned off a little bit. I think if you listen to people after the combine, it was absolute hyperbole. Oh, he could be like a top 5 player. He's that gifted.
Yeah, Nick Emonwari, exactly the same.
Yeah, and it's starting to tail off again. And I think we're now probably coming a bit more full circle and a bit more realistic about where we think Shedeur Stewart is going to end up. I think he's going to go in the second half of the first round. And I think that's probably warranted because he's got all the talent. It's just the production. And I think you've not got a marriage between the two yet. And I think teams will look at that and say, well, why hasn't... There's mitigating factors. He's played at heavyweight. That Texas A&M line. Look at the talented guys they had at one point. Your Nick Skirton as well, Shedeur Stewart and Walter Nolan we've talked about. And they just haven't produced what you would expect for the talent. So there's definitely a bit of that to it as well. But I think we've come round to a bit more of a realistic settling for Shedeur Stewart, I think.
Yeah. Has there been enough production? No. So if there was, we would be talking about a top 10 pick because you'd take the size, you take the athleticism, then you add in production. That's really the sticking point with him. I also, the movement skills are great. I do worry about how agile he is. He's got a 10 RAS, but didn't do any agility drills at the combine, so there's no short shuttle or 3-cone, which means that the 10 score isn't exactly true. It would be the same with Nick Emenwari. You're going to hear a lot about him during the draft being like, oh, it was a combine monster, great tester, great mover, but again, didn't do the agility drills. So you've not got a true 10 score if you want to be picky. But there is the lateral movement isn't the same as this powerful linear movement that, if you're going to get this explosive first step and then attack it into the chest with power, that's what you want Shamar Stewart to do. It's all going to be about projection with him, and it's going to come down to when you picture him in your defense, what do you picture? And some teams will go, yeah, we can see it, and they'll draft him for it. And I think he will go high. I still think he will go highly. I still do think he'll go in the first half, where I have no idea. But I mean, the Falcons need edge rush help at 15. That's about halfway through, isn't it? And then even the Cardinals at 16, it's difficult to see him getting out of there. And then even look at 11 with San Francisco. They need so much help on the defensive line. It depends on whether you have faith in your coaching staff to develop that. Yes, he left a lot of production on the field, good or bad. Yes, he was getting there, but wasn't finishing it. But at the same time, why wasn't he finishing it? Maybe we need to improve the pass rush moves. There's a lot of question marks. The question for teams, that'll be how many of those do they think they can erase?
Yeah, and I think, like you said, well, it depends on also, I think that the timeline that the head coach and the GM has. He's one of, if you think you might be out the door in a year or two, maybe we don't have time to develop him. So let's go elsewhere. Okay, one more defensive player who, Will Johnson. He was super high up on many boards, on many mock drafts. He's definitely slipped down. A few speed questions, a few injury questions as well. What's your take, guys? Where's his sort of range?
Yeah.
I think we was having the same answer for a lot of these questions, and it's
back to
For me, he's got the talent. I'll stand by that. I think he's a top 6 talent in this class, and I think he would be a great pick for the Raiders at 6. I'm a Will Johnson stan, though, that you're going to see a lot of his. He's got the height, he's got the weight, he's just got everything for me. He's been suffering with niggly injuries and different niggly injuries. He wanted to do a pro day, so did a pro day last week, didn't run a 40, which is, I think, teams are a little bit annoyed about because they wanted to see that, but the reason he didn't run is because he was going to run slow, so why would you? What my question might be, he then did the short shuttle, did a 4.33 short shuttle. That's only the 13th percentile, which he must have known that wasn't going to be great because that's not the type of player he is. He's better when the play's in front of him rather than behind. So, but for me, he can do everything. I'd be more than happy spending a top 10 pick on Will Johnson. We'll see where we end up, but it seems unlikely right now, but I still would be more than comfortable with it.
Yeah, I would be comfortable with even matching up with Campbell at the Raiders. Jacksonville as their cornerback duo. I think he's a clever enough player to do well. I'm sick of seeing this away.
He'll have to go to a zone scheme. He can't play man. There's plenty of tape of him playing zone and man. That isn't a worry at all.
No, I'd agree. I can't see him going much past Arizona.
Yeah, 15, 16. Yeah.
Arizona seems like a nice landing spot if he is going to drop, because they've needed cornerback help forever and a day.
They've got young talent. They just don't have a star.
They do have good young players there now. Guy Williams, and they've got a few other ones. But yeah, I can see him going in that range. I think he might just fall out of that top end. Could Miami take him now that they're getting rid of Jalen Ramsey? Possibly.
Yeah. he'd be one of those. I think that he's such a good talent that he'd be one of those players that seem to go, yes, we've got bigger needs elsewhere, but
he's just talented.
Let's take the elite talent. That's the type of prospect we're talking about. We're talking about someone going, well, would rather fill the need. With him, it'll be, if he makes it. Even talk about maybe the Seahawks at 18. They've got corners, but adding Will Johnson to that room just would make a hell of a difference. And it comes to a point where I think that if we can draft a star, then why wouldn't we?
Why wouldn't you indeed? And some stars are going to get drafted in less than a week. Ooh, excited. But yeah, thanks for, as always, for joining us to give us your insights. Guys, anything to add before we say goodbye to the lovely people?
No, probably one more before the draft.
Yeah.
Final mock.
Yeah. One more, then we riot.
Yeah, we have draft night off. We have it off. We enjoy ourselves and have a bit of a good time during draft night.
Draft nights.
Yes,
indeed we do. Yeah, we'll be back, like we say, with one more before the big day. But in the meantime, thank you very much for listening. Take care of yourselves, and we'll see you soon.